Hey everybody, this is Mad Matt Carter. Thank you so much for watching the AIWF Network YouTube channel, as well as the AIWF Ringside Wrestling channel. If you like what you see, please do us a big favor. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications every time we post new videos on both our channels. It means a lot to us, and thanks a lot for watching once again. Sting's final match took place last Sunday in Greensboro. Rick Diesel, I'm pretty sure you didn't order the pay-per-view because, you know, like you've told us before, the mark has been beat completely out of you. I did.
I heard they did him right, although they didn't do him old school. I don't know. I'm torn on that. I kind of, I was always raised that you go out on your back, pass the torch. I'm glad that, but see, on the other hand, I'm glad they done it the way they did. Because it's damn young bucks. They don't deserve nothing. Honestly, leg slapping bastards. They just want to start all that crap. But I'm glad they don't have it. But I hate
not start that. That's a lucha libre thing.
Well, they brought it up here.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about it up here till they come around smacking ourselves in the ass. But anyway, I'm glad they did him right. Like I said, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I'm old school, so I've always been taught there's a way you go out, but then again, the way they sent him out was appropriate.
Yeah, I think so too. In the grand scheme of things, let me say this. It did my heart good. Part of the reason I wanted to look at that pay-per-view was just to see the Greensboro Coliseum with that many people in it for wrestling. And it was impressive because when you watch, you could see the people all the way to the edges of the stage area with the big screen. You could see that like even some of them were sitting partially behind the big screen, kind of like looking out, like the ones that waited till the last minute. And I'm going to give kudos where it's due. I've never bought an AEW pay-per-view before, and I probably won't again. Not for a while, unless they can entice me with something really good, like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. I'm joking, guys, if you didn't know. Which will be a nice attraction for Netflix. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if there's going to be any additional cost, but they were telling me last night at that party it's going to be included with all the Netflix subscriptions. So if you're a regular Netflix subscriber, you're getting that fight. Anyway, they had Renee
Paquette.
Renee Moxley.
Yeah, Renee. Or as Jim Cornette says, Renee Moxley good. And she had some kind of little boy with her that didn't feel like it was necessary to put on anything more than a t-shirt and a jacket to do the pre-show. Not to say that his broadcasting skills weren't good. I mean, they weren't great, but they weren't bad. He didn't like stink up the show or nothing. But they did a real good job in the pre-show of like standing on the ramp with the crowd in the ring behind them. Really like the way they were talking about the show and the clock counting down. They made it really feel big, as you were counting down to the pay-per-view. And then it happened. They did a ringside interview with Tony Schiavone and David Crockett. And David Crockett gave his analysis for the main event the only way he could do it. The way David Crockett. Oh my God, the man has not changed a bit. He may have aged 40 years, but he's still David.
Still a baby face.
I tell you, Tony, you saw what he did with his sons. You saw what they did with his sons. You don't mess with family, Tony. You don't mess with family. And I'm marking the fuck out right there because David's got me in stitches. And I told Jinky, I was like, look, the pay-per-view hadn't even started yet. I feel like I got $10 worth of my 50 right there.
And what I like about David Crockett is he sounds like he's never been smartened up to the business. Like his commentary seems so sincere. And like, it's just to listen to him, sounds like everything he sees is a surprise. Like, and it's wonderful listening.
David Crockett was the biggest babyface fan in the world, and God love him for it.
And
well, he
it
always
was his business. It was his business.
He always struck me as he reminded me of somebody who snuck out of the crowd and grabbed a mic and was just so excited.
And you know what was funny? The reason he got that gig doing TV was because Trucking Tom Miller showed up to the RAL studios one morning for TV, and he was still drunk. And so they all drew straws, and David drew the short straw to take his place and was on TV from like 1978 until he went out of business because of that.
Well, that and the fact that, you know, as David Finley, he really didn't hack it as a wrestler.
Yeah. Well,
have you ever watched that one match that they've shown on tape of him in the ring?
About a minute and a half of it, I've seen it.
Yeah. It's about like his commentary. You can't look away. You can't not listen. It's a peach.
Yeah. But they didn't show David no more after that, and that was kind of disappointing. But I guess David wanted to just go back in the back and hang out with everybody. So the main show started. And the first match on the show was Christian and Danny Garcia, I think. I was working. I didn't really pay much attention to it. Sorry. The next match I had was an 8-man scramble, so I walked outside to smoke a cigarette because I don't particularly like those kind of matches. What I did see, there was a lot of people diving up over the ropes, out in the crowd, this, that, and the third. All right, cool. Then the worst match of the night, I think, in my opinion, was Bryan Danielson and who was that fucker he wrestled? Eddie Kingston. And I would have never put the words Bryan Danielson match and bad in the same sentence until I saw this. But it was just, they both dedicated the match to some Japanese legendary wrestler, and they worked a Japanese. They worked a weird Japanese. It was like, I saw that match that Kenny Omega had with Chris Jericho several years ago in Japan that everybody was just raving over. And I remember thinking, man, that's rough style, man. That's pretty cool. It's pretty badass. But what they were doing was just, I don't know. Something was really wrong with that. It just looked fake. And I hate to say that. So, and I've never said that about a Bryan Danielson match, but it was not good. And then I'm trying to think, they moved on, and I can't really remember, because you kind of you got to remember, I'm trying to do my shoot job with the TV on the side. So, and then the match that just FTR is dead. They had a match with Ambrose or John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, who used to be Antonio Cesaro in WWE. And I knew it was going to be fucked up when Moxley and Cesaro walked out wearing these, looked like they were homemade Road Warriors shoulder pads. Remember how the Road Warriors wore the football shoulder pads with the big long spikes on it that would stick out? All right.
These look styrofoam sold from concession shoulder pads.
Yeah, it looked like they had painted some of those black and like put metal spikes on them. Go if you can find the pictures.
I saw the picture of it. They're little. It's like they're really small.
Yeah, and
it looked more like paintball.
There you go.
Things.
There you go.
I don't know what you'd call them, but yeah, they look like from paintball.
Yeah, but I remember thinking, I don't like the looks of this, as they were on their way to the ring. And they had a match with FTR that had some exciting points in it, but it's like, I really didn't know who was the bad guys and who was the good guys, because the Blackpool Combat Club, why they're still called that, I don't know. They busted Cash or Dax open, and they like controlled the match. And every time FTR would get something going, they'd shut them down. And then went into the finish, and it was back and forth, a bunch of near falls. And then they choked both of them out at the same time. They got them in sleeper holds and both choked them out, both FTR in the middle of the ring. And they did that in Greensboro, in their home state. They have beat FTR into powder in AEW. Like, I'm no longer excited to see them. I feel bad for them. The one thing I can say is keep cashing those checks, boys. and hopefully they can get the hell out of there when their contracts are up. And I don't know how long that is, but they have just
where do they go from here?
I don't know. I mean, did they just have a falling out with Vince?
Well, what they
have
did
words with Triple
them
H?
is Vince wanted to put on that really. Remember, there at the end they had that really stupid comedy gimmick, and from what I had read is that they were like, okay, we're going to do this stupid gimmick for the rest of our contract, but once our contract is out, we're out of here. So I don't know that they burn a bridge, because I mean,
no, I don't think they burn a bridge.
But
no.
that was
it's hard to burn a bridge in this business anymore.
No, they took off and they bet on themselves, really. I guarantee if they wanted to go back, they could go back.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure. And now there's new management in place anyway. So yeah. So, but they're being beat to death. They've lost to the Bucks. They've lost to everybody. They had those good matches last year with the Briscoe brothers.
Briscoes, yeah.
But nobody saw them because they were on ROH pay-per-views. And how die-hard have you got to be to order an ROH pay-per-view? Raise your hand if you ordered one of those pay-per-views from last year where the one of those 3 matches are on there. And do it in the chat, too, on Facebook, because I'm about to prove something.
I ain't going to lie. If our cable company would have carried them, I would have ordered them.
Yeah.
Just because.
But they didn't. But
right.
they didn't. And so, it's unfortunate what's happened to that team, because they were great. And when they were in WWE, NXT, especially in NXT, man, back around, what was it, 16 or 17, when they were feuding with
Alpha.
Yes. Oh my God, that feud was so awesome.
Them and Alpha Academy and them and DIY were
yes.
clinics.
Yes. Oh, incredible. They should show those at the first day of wrestling school anywhere.
You could show anything KC did when he was working North Carolina Indies as far as wrestling school. Yeah.
And so just to be clear, so people that don't know, KC McKnight was Dak's name when he was in the Indies, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He run the Carolinas.
Yeah. And so